He showed up for one of the proudest days of his life, a father ready to see his son walk across the stage. The auditorium buzzed with excitement. Families pressed shoulder to shoulder, the air thick with celebration. Balloons floated, camera. Flashes burst and laughter rippled through the rows of proud parents. And in the middle of it all sat Marcus Hill. He had worn the uniform. He had given his country the best years of his life, offering his strength, his loyalty, and his blood. His chest carried scars no one could see, each one earned in silence on foreign soil. Yet none of that mattered now, because in that very room, before his son could take the stage, two guards began moving toward him. Their eyes are sharp, their footsteps deliberate, and their presence heavy. They weren't coming to congratulate him. They were coming to remove him. In front of hundreds, he was told he didn't belong. His heart clenched. Pride turned to dread. What happened next would silence the room and reveal a truth about dignity, justice, and who gets to stand proud in America. Marcus Hill was a man who believed in order, in duty, and in discipline. Raised in a small southern town, he grew up knowing that the world would not always welcome him. His father had warned him, "You'll have to fight twice as hard for half the respect." And so Marcus did. He worked his way into the Marine Corps, clawed his way up through the ranks, and built a life defined by sacrifice. But under the medals and commendations was a man driven by something far more personal: his family. He carried photos of Darren in his pack on every deployment. Through long nights in desert sands, through the roar of helicopters, and through the aching silence of loss, it was his son's face that reminded him what he was fighting for. Darren had grown into the kind of young man every parent dreams of: disciplined, kind, and determined. His graduation wasn't just a ceremony. It was a milestone that spoke to years of hard work. He would be the first in their family to graduate with honors, stepping into a future bright with possibility. Marcus prepared for the day the way he once prepared for battle, with precision. His uniform was pressed before dawn, every crease sharp, every ribbon aligned perfectly. His shoes gleamed, reflecting the morning sun as if to say, "I belong here. My son belongs here." When he looked in the mirror, he saw not just a Marine, but a father ready to watch his son claim a victory generations in the making. Inside the auditorium, families filled every row. Programs rustled, children giggled, and cameras beeped as lenses zoomed into focus. Marcus eased into his seat, his tall frame commanding quiet respect even when he said nothing. For a moment, peace wrapped around him. This was supposed to be a day untouched by the ugliness of the world outside, a day to exhale, but not everyone saw it that way. From across the room, two guards noticed him. Their eyes lingered, their whispers sharpened. Their suspicion grew not from his behavior but from the color of his skin, the tilt of his uniform, and the presence they decided didn't belong. The ceremony hadn't even begun, yet the atmosphere shifted. A father sitting among proud families suddenly became a question mark in their minds. The guards started moving. At first, Marcus ignored it. He straightened his back, adjusted his cap, and focused on the stage. But the stares from nearby parents told him something was wrong. Conversations faltered. A nervous hush swept over the row. Children looked wide-eyed, asking questions their parents struggled to answer. The guards stopped at his side. Their tone was polite in words, but sharp in delivery. "Sir, we need you to step outside." Marcus froze. His heart thudded. Step outside? For what? He wasn't disruptive. He wasn't out of place. He was a father, sitting in his seat, waiting for his son's name to be called. Yet suddenly, he was being treated like an intruder. Humiliation burned hot in his chest, but Marcus stood. He had spent years mastering control over his emotions, teaching himself not to react with anger no matter the circumstance. Still, as he rose, he felt the eyes of the crowd pressing down, branding him guilty without explanation. He moved into the aisle, the guards flanking him tightly. Every step toward the back of the auditorium felt heavier than the last. He thought of Darren. Would his son glance into the crowd, looking for him, only to find his seat empty? Would this proud day forever be shadowed by shame? The guards muttered something about protocol and about security, but Marcus knew better. These weren't neutral words. They were weapons, shields used to cover prejudice. His jaw clenched. He wanted to shout that he had earned his place, that his uniform was proof enough, that his service was more than many in the room would ever know. Instead, he walked silently, carrying the invisible weight of every black man who had been told he didn't belong in spaces his own labor had built, defended, or bled for. The doors closed behind them. The hum of the crowd softened into a muffled echo. In the empty hallway, the tension thickened. The guards exchanged uneasy glances. They had removed him from sight, but not from dignity. Marcus stood rooted, refusing to be pushed further. Then came the sound of boots, heavy, steady, purposeful. 6 men appeared at the far end of the hallway, Navy SEALs in dress uniform. Their eyes swept the scene, immediately recognizing the injustice unfolding before them. They weren't strangers to Marcus. They had trained with him, deployed with him, and trusted him with their lives. In war zones where color meant nothing and courage meant everything, Marcus had been the man they leaned on. Now, in this hallway, they leaned on him again, not with need, but with loyalty. The guards stiffened, their confidence slipping as the SEALs formed a line beside Marcus. No words were exchanged, none were needed. Their presence alone shattered the false authority of the moment. The guards stumbled over excuses, muttering about suspicion and about safety, but their voices wavered. Their argument collapsed under the silent testimony of men who knew the truth. Marcus didn't move. He didn't have to. His allies spoke without speaking. Their stance, their silence, and their solidarity shouted louder than any protest. When they escorted him back into the auditorium, the entire crowd shifted. Whispers died. Heads turned. A man who moments before had been led out in shame now walked back in, flanked by those who knew his worth. His seat was no longer just a place in the crowd. It was a statement, and when Darren's name was called, Marcus rose. His chest swelled with pride, his throat tight with emotion. He watched his son accept his diploma, knowing that moment carried more than academic achievement. It carried defiance, resilience, and a father's unbreakable dignity. But beneath the pride was a wound. The humiliation lingered, the memory carved deep. Because no matter how many medals adorned his chest, no matter how many sacrifices he made, Marcus knew that his skin would always mark him as suspect in the eyes of some. That is the battle many never see. The battle that doesn't make headlines, that isn't fought with weapons, but with silence, suspicion, and systemic doubt. Marcus had faced fire overseas, but the battlefield at home was constant, relentless, and deeply personal. This story is bigger than Marcus. It is the story of countless families who work, sacrifice, and strive, only to be told, subtly or openly, that they don't belong. It happens in classrooms where children are disciplined more harshly, in workplaces where qualifications are questioned, and in neighborhoods where safety is assumed for some and denied to others. And every time it happens, the fabric of justice tears. Every unchecked act of prejudice becomes a wound not just to its target but to the society that allows it. So the question is not whether Marcus stood tall in the end. He did. The question is how many more fathers must endure this? How many more children must watch dignity stripped from the people they love before something changes? Remember Marcus. Remember Darren. Remember the day that should have been only about joy, yet became a lesson in resilience. Because their story is more than a graduation, it is a mirror. And when we look into it, we must ask ourselves, will we let silence protect injustice, or will we break it once and for all?